Hi guys, welcome back to Transits and Tactics. And this is a very interesting transit because we have the solar transit through gate 23, which is the gate of assimilation. We're going to talk about this. The Earth is in the gate of breakthrough, 43. And 43 and 23 are harmonious, because they make up a whole channel of structuring, which is one of the most empowering channels. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this. Most empowering channels that there is amongst the 36 channels in human design, because it's the power of creative insights that can bring dramatic change. So we are all literally under the influence of this whole channel right now because we have the sun and the earth, right? So it's a beautiful, beautiful energy. As I mentioned, dramatic change. So when the drama is involved, then a bit of a shocking people, provoking people into something. So let's have a look at this. Gate 23 is the gate in your throat, which is the gate of manifestation. But every gate manifests itself differently, right? So the gate 23 is manifestation through insights. It basically says, I know something that you don't, usually offering some new perspectives, and this is unexpected insights, and it can come out in a way that basically says, hey, here's something that you haven't thought before. That's why it can be provoking, because we're not all, open to change. We usually don't like change that much. So the person with this energy comes in, and all of a sudden the change is revealed, the new is revealed. And so now we're here to assimilate to it, and when we're assimilating to something, it's a kind of time when we have to discern what serves us, what doesn't serve us, what to let go of and what to do more of, what capabilities we need. I remember moving to, Ireland 20 odd years ago, to assimilate. I had a decision. I made a decision then to assimilate or to integrate, because they're two different things. Integration means you still have a community of your own, like I speak Russian as my first language, so Russian speaking people, and then you kind of communicate just based on the fact that you speak the same language. A lot of people live in the foreign countries, stuck in their own communities, like expats communities. But for me, it wasn't the thing, right? And so my assimilation meant to make choices based on, what is attracting me truly to a person and not what language they speak. In fact, I found that it's very difficult just based on your culture or your language or your place you're from to find people who are really your soulmates. It's very difficult. So for that, you need to assimilate and open up and let go of holding on to traditions and holding on to the old. That's the way I see the kind of assimilation part of this energy. But there's also the insight that's going to come out, right? It's a throat. It's the energy coming out of you and manifesting into something, into a dramatic change. This is always going to be a projected energy. This is always going to be an energy where you need to know the timing when to speak. In fact, it applies to the whole channel, because let's for a moment to ground that with Earth in gate 43. This is the gate of breakthroughs, and this is a very, very creative gate. It's these insights that's coming from Ajna, coming from our mind. It's a really powerful energy. This is a really powerful channel. And it's also bringing structure. That's a good thing about it, because you can have the insights, you can have the new, but you also need the structure to make sure that assimilation goes, properly and well. But there is such a huge condition that the timing is right, that you share, because you could be so ahead of others in what you're bringing to the table, that when you are doing it to the wrong people in the wrong time, you're not invited to share. People are closed to you. You can energetically feel that sometimes, and you're just still impatient to just blurt it out. That can land really badly for you. You can come across as too direct, too blunt, and rub people the wrong way. I know this very well. My late husband Les had this energy. He rubbed so many people the wrong way just because he'd just say something and basically make everybody feel like shit. That's just so, and he didn't mean it, but this is this channel of structuring. So knowing when not to speak is really important here, because when you know when to speak, then you can get the recognition that you deserve. With these new ideas or different perspectives, you can be not just you can be recognized. That's a sweet feeling. We're both projectors. We know how good it feels, right? But also then, as I mentioned just earlier, assimilation into this transformative process becomes easier for them and for you as well. So the second condition, there is a second condition. You have to choose the language. You have to know how to clearly communicate. So this week, what I am suspecting that's going to happen, that we're going to be blurting out things, because this is just an energy, and usually the transit comes, and if you don't have that all the time in your life already, and you maybe have mastered it, or at least you're aware of this energy, we can all be ambushing each other with insights and conversations, and completely not in a wrong timing. So we do have to hold back a little bit, or at least ask before sharing and shocking people into this new perspective. Just check first where they are, and make sure you're expressing yourself clearly, because you can also just come across as just some weirdo. You don't want that, right? So wonderful, wonderful energy. And I know there's full moon and more things going on. So Anita, over to you, because you know the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. I love this energy as well. I have the gate 23, not the 43. So the best way to actually, I find, to use this energy is when you are getting downloads or are trying to filter through information. What I actually do is ask the angels to help me split away any information that is not necessary with respect to my goal. Only leave what's necessary, and it becomes much easier then to anchor your ideas, to speak your ideas. It's people speaking their mind, and to speak those ideas. And when you're speaking the ideas that are singly for you, it's very much more powerful in your manifesting. But yes, so what else is going on in the energies? Pluto is after going return this week, which is a big deal because it's delving through what we've gone through the last few months. It's like scraping the bottom of the barrel now. Any other crap that's left there where your expectations aren't being met, and you either need to address your expectations or you need to address what you actually need as opposed to what you expect, right? So it's very good for this energy because you can pare down any expectations that no longer serve you and actually set up new criteria. The second thing that's going on is we're right next door to Uranus in the gate 8. So a lot of you might find that you are looking for that your business isn't quite working the way it used to. Maybe the clients aren't coming the way they used to, and this is actually really normal because we're getting a massive training on you need to be more discerning about who you work with. You need to be more discerning about how you share your energy, how you leverage your energy, because there's going to be a new and more aligned way of making your contribution through your business. So pay attention to the ones that are annoying you or bugging you. They may very well be or where you're trying to fulfill expectations that you thought you should do, but that actually aren't working for you. So it's time to stop battling with that and time to start allowing the guidance through that you need, right, for your business moving forward. So even just the other day, we were doing the last transit, and Juliette, it was the same information, it was my same skill set, but it was literally how I adjusted it and directed it to to work better for me was literally what we were doing the other day. And if you notice, all these Taurus, Scorpio, Sun in Taurus is the money line in the astrology chart.
Yeah.
So, but most of the energies are individual circuitry. So interestingly, it what it tells me is you've it's become a non-negotiable need to do it your way. There's so many different ways that we can do it. This is why we need to pare away in essential details the energy this week so that we are getting more aligned with what we're doing, or what we need to do ourselves. And I think that's a big deal because we're literally being, Pluto is digging, Uranus is shaking everything up. And, you know, I would say to stop fighting with whatever it is you're fighting
Oh,
with.
I love that.
Potentially, there's a control battle going on here, and the control battle might be what I'm thinking as opposed to what my gut is telling me to do.
Yeah.
That can be the battle, right? And so this energy becomes a beautiful bridge between your mind and your body to connect your yes with your mind and go from there. So
Oh, I
that's really
love that. I love that. I was walking my dog this morning and I was listening to Richard Rudd's Contemplation on the 23rd gene key. I'm not that much into gene keys. I'm very open about it. I love Richard Rudd though for his human design work and just like lovely energy. And I like how in his contemplations he sometimes gives really, really good like practical and down to earth examples. Some other ones go very flowery into philosophy, but today's one was so, so good. And without, like, I'm going to have to paraphrase because I have no memory of exactly how he said things. But here's what stood out to me. We are overcomplicating our life. We're overcomplicating our life, whereas this gate is asking us to assimilate, to create, to find some sort of sweet spot where things are simpler for us and they fit us. It's not a prescriptive thing that somebody said you need to do, and you suddenly believe that and you do that, but you actually it's too much or too little for you. And he gave an example of drinking water. The body needs water and the body has a lot of water in it. Too much water, you're in trouble. Too little water, you're in trouble. You need to have this sweet balance that your body is operating at an optimal level with the water, in terms of water intake. However, like I am a tiny person, right? So obviously the amount of water that my body needs would be so much less than somebody with a bigger frame, right? And sometimes also with human design, there is this, the thing about the active and passive brain. And sometimes you might have this just energetic build where you need more hydration and nutrition because that's the way you operate, right? Or sometimes for some other ones, you don't need that much. You don't need to drink that much. So it's not that you have to or you don't have to, because this is not a rule. You have to feel it and you have to figure it out for yourself. Because when you overcomplicate just because somebody told you something, you're going to pay the price. I actually have another anecdote. Just 2 months ago, in my air yoga class, we have the most wonderful trainer. She is so, we call her an energizer because you come in there and she just energizes. I think she's a generator and she just buzzes up this, training. So you could sense this buzz, this satisfaction from her. And she looked really, really good. And she's very tiny, but she lost even more weight. She looked brilliant. And we started talking, what do you do? Like how you look great. And she was saying, well, I am upping the protein intake in my diet. And she went into telling what she was doing. And she was taking much more, protein supplements, but also a lot of dairy, as in cottage cheeses and curds. In Estonia here, the dairy quality is really good comparing to a lot of places out there in the world. It's always has been, and they have such a big variety of this curd-like cottage cheese-like dairy. Which is full of protein. And I have been avoiding dairy for about 4 years now because I noticed that it doesn't really agree with me as the older I become. So I've been staying away, plant-based milks and all that kind of stuff, even very little of those. But I went and I got conditioned with that conversation. I got, I just thought, oh my God, what if I do this? And I decided to complicate my life and I started eating all those curds and cottage cheeses. A month later, I noticed that all my joints started aching. And now it's been progressing. So I think I have an inflammation in my body because of this dairy that I've been taking. And because there's nothing else changed. So now I have to give up my air yoga for a while because I'm actually literally in so much pain that I can't do it. And I've booked myself into all the doctors to check what's going on. Now, that's a very good example for me to think, hang on a second, you know what works for you. You had the sweet spot. You know what works. So sometimes, obviously, deviate, but don't go where you've tried before, or, the price you're going to pay for overcomplicating your life when it was already in balance is going to be worse. Like I thought I'm going to, lose a couple of pounds when I gained a lot of pain and
Mm.
feeling 20 years older than I should feel, So I think this is the energy of this simplification. And as I was listening to that contemplation, I was also thinking, Juliette, this is what you preach. I could just write a whole book about it. Simplify your business. Simplify. You don't have to be hustling. You don't have to be, constantly posting on social media. For some people and in some specific situations, it can work, but it doesn't work for everyone. In fact, most people would say that it doesn't work. So how can you find your sweet balance between being visible and having a presence on socials, but not kill yourself doing that? This is the key question. And the secret is that when you unlock that question, when you unlock the answer for that question for yourself, things just align. Even when they don't logically make sense, but things align, business becomes more consistent. This is the story of my life, and I found that the less I overcomplicate, and especially with my mind, the less I start, going into, oh, we need more, or nobody will find me, or, these kind of things. This is the shadow of 23rd gate. When you are the shadow is overcomplicating your life, and then what happens is that it has a fear of itself. So what Richard Roth said, and I really loved it, he said sometimes you're afraid of something, and then you literally create with your mind the situation that will bring you exactly that. And
Yeah.
that's what happens in business. You're like, oh my God, I need to launch, I need to launch. But you don't feel like this. Maybe you're unwell. Maybe you just like your head is not in it, but you're pushing it and pushing it. And then you're launching and nobody comes because you just didn't have the magnetic energy, because you didn't do it from the right place, right? From the grounded place. And so you've just literally manifested what you were afraid of. That's going to happen, that you have a lack. That happens so often, I think, with us.
Yeah, I agree. This is the worry wart. The 43 is the worry wart. And the worry is like, oh my God, if I'm not doing any, you can burn out on the couch with this energy at times, because it's the energy where you're so worried about not succeeding that you just keep jumping into activities to keep yourself busy enough. It's a fear of silence actually can sometimes happen here. And the beauty of it is that once you realize that worry generates more things to worry about, it's a great way to understand that, to catch that worry and ask a different question instead of, oh my God, where's the money going to come from? Instead, go, I wonder how I can adjust my skills to bring in more money this week.
Exactly.
One question opens up to possibilities, the other shuts everything down, and it's just too easy to do because with the Ajna it can be mental anxiety, but the superpower of this energy is understanding that you can get great insights, new ways of adjusting your existing skill set and translating them into a very abundant outcome once you, as Juliette said, just keep it simple, keep it simple.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? It works. It really does. And we overthink things so much. I had this conversation yesterday. I ambushed my husband yesterday, even though 23 only started today. But I think I was already, and I ambushed him, and I was, talking about him. Let's do more books, and because the books, writing books, adds to your credibility. And really, you can be very strategic about it instead of overthinking and thinking that, oh my God, if I write a book, it's a huge, it has to be the story of my life, and I have to like, this is like the biggest project on my bucket list. But it doesn't have to be that at all. It could be very strategic, and you can have a program and you write a book to explain the vision behind that specific program. It could be a tiny little brochure, but that adds credibility to you as an expert and actually makes it clear to others who come to you, what the heck do you do? Because sometimes it's very difficult to explain yourself. And it's so interesting about, how we overcomplicate everything. And he was saying, yes, but nobody reads my books. And I said, who cares? I don't care. He's become a bestseller when the book came out. I said, that's the most important thing. You have that little credibility marker. That's it. Why do you care that they read or not? Because they're not leaving enough reviews. So did you do the book for them? No. Do you like the book? Yes. So that's all that matters. Make it simpler. Do it for yourself. Because when you're sharing from within and not for them, but just to channel what comes out of you, you're here, you have a role and contribution to this world by being you. So when we're sharing through our content, we're just fulfilling this responsibility to contribute our truth. When you do it from that space, that is magnetic.
Yeah.
what they will think, what they need to hear, what they will do. As long as you have your funnels available to take the next step, they will take it. The right ones will take it, not just they. And that's such a wonderful way when you just see it in a much simpler way and stop focusing on them and start focusing
Yeah.
on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the reverse of most marketing out there right now, most marketing advice, which is important to know. So go 180 and talk to
I
Juliette.
think so. Yeah. Yeah. Focus on yourself. And this is what I always preach, focus on yourself. And I think I do the same thing. And yes, the little voice in your head will always be arguing with you that you're not doing enough and you should be doing that. But this is why we have this discernment. You don't have to study human design or other modalities, but even if you do with human design says, hey, there is an authority, like a way to make a decision that's much more correct. So you don't listen to the chatter, which is a tiny little tiny part of your design. Energetically, you're a very different creature, but you're listening to that little, child throwing a tantrum in the back seat of your car, basically. You're letting them make decisions instead of saying, okay, I can hear that you're crying in the back, but I am the one who's driving. So I'm just going to continue driving. So it's like, it's really, really interesting to think about this and just take responsibility, right? I think that this is what this gate is doing with us. It gives us these insights of something new. We have a responsibility to share it. Yes, we need to know who to share it with. We need to, and it's also, don't overcomplicate that part as well. You always sense, especially in one-on-one interactions, when you're creating content, those who are not interested, they're just not going to read or watch long enough, so it doesn't matter, right? But it's in the one-to-one interaction where it's really important to know when to speak, when not to speak. And you can feel that. You always, if you tune in into your body, into what's happening, and, think less is more. What if I don't say it? And then you sense, and then you might sense, okay, you know what? No, there is actually an openness. I can say what I have to say. And so you do,
That's a
instead
really
of
good,
just
yeah.
blurting it out, which is the
That's
danger in this with this channel.
that's a really good point because this can be a deaf channel. Like people might not hear you, that the insight is so streets ahead of where they are that they might not hear you. So it's key not to get upset or take it personally if that's the case.
That's true.
Um, because it's a deaf gate because you need to fulfill your insights and which insights, the gate 23, which insights to fulfill. And you need to not hear everybody's chitter chatter about it. So be careful who you share with because it does when I have the 23 and my husband has the full channel, and I used to think that I was there, oh my God, you don't listen to me, you don't hear me. Because when one has the full and the other one has the half, this is a place where you will kind of find you fight the same fight all the time, right? So
Mm.
when I realized that, oh my God, this is how we're wired, there's nothing wrong with him, there's nothing wrong with me. I was able to say, when he came up with his super insight, I was able to say, that's great for you. Stop. I think I'll do my own thing.
Yeah.
So I stopped I stopped misreading the energy or misinterpreting it, and it made our life so much easier, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's true, but those struggles are these struggles are the hardest in the real life face-to-face
Yeah.
interaction, in the real energetic face-to-face interaction. Those are the things where, when it comes to creating content or showing up in your business, we're so afraid. But it's actually easier because there is no, like, the camera doesn't judge, or your pen and paper, or your keyboards on your computer doesn't judge, right? Like, your partner who loves you adores you, but he can still judge you, or she can still judge you, right? It's more difficult to do it face to face than to do it online. Trust me, take my word for it. So don't hold back and don't tell yourself all these complicated stories
Yeah.
about, how you don't want to be visible, and missing out on a part which is actually quite much more comfortable in my experience than interacting with people face to face. So just a little pep talk, right? It's not as bad as you think. It's actually much better. So guys, we will see you. Hopefully you have a fantastic week. Remember, everybody right now is affected by this energy. Everybody has an opportunity to say something in the wrong timing, and or not to want to hear it, so just be be cool with this. It's only 6 days. They will pass. But also, if you're making any, making decisions, taking action, just tune in with your authority. Is it a yes for you? Or you need to take, time to, if you have emotional authority, environmental, maybe you just need a little bit more time. That's okay too. But with that, at least you get an opportunity to be, maybe then if you feel yes to share what your insight, that's going to be accepted well. That can actually, something good can happen from this. That's why you're waiting. So I think it's really beautiful to see waiting versus being impatient. You know, impatience is the fear of missing out. Waiting is power. So, yes. Okay, guys, we will see you in the next episode of Transits and Tactics. And for now, goodbye.